Revealed, in an amazing twist, senior officer's life shattered by unexpected email divorce mid-meeting. Mike Thompson sat behind his desk, the weight of Maple Grove's concerns resting heavily on his shoulders as he prepped for the town hall meeting. He was the town's protector, its dedicated chief, but in one instant, his world utterly collapsed. The ping of an email notification shattered the silence like glass shattering on tile. He clicked. The words blurred together as his heart sank. An email from Sarah, his wife of 20 years, reduced to a mere few lines. She wanted a divorce. Mike's breath hitched. The foundations of love, shared vows, and years of companionship crumbled before him. He was left staring at a message that felt like a sledgehammer to his chest. How could this happen? The question clawed at him as he forced himself to focus on community safety, all while grappling with an emotional storm brewing inside. He put on a mask of calm as officers filtered into the meeting room, laughing and joking, but behind it, Mike's heart raced and his chest tightened. Every ounce of his being wanted to scream, to break down and reveal the gnawing despair. A cacophony of voices filled the air, but they sounded muted, as though he were submerged underwater. He knew he couldn't show weakness, not in front of the young officers looking to him for guidance. Yet each interaction felt like a reminder of his crumbling resolve. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days blurred into nights, and Mike found solace in work. Papers piled up on his desk, but every signature felt like a weight. The laughter from his colleagues echoed like whispers, mocking his internal chaos. Isolation seeped into his bones, gnawing at him like a relentless predator. He replayed their years together, the laughter, the dreams many thought unbreakable, but now remnants of doubt lingered like shadows. Did he miss the signs of Sarah's unhappiness? The dull sleeps on the couch, the silence at dinner? He questioned every decision he'd ever made, each moment of joy tainted by the ghosts of grief looming large. In those moments of clarity and despair, Mike stumbled across a side of his wife he had overlooked, a woman yearning beyond their shared life. Suffocated by struggles he was too busy to see, financial strains, unwelcomed loneliness, and dreams brushed aside in service of family. This realization flipped his world upside down, revealing layers of unrecognized loyalty. The protective mantle he wore soured, and he stood on the precipice of confronting his own demons. A father figure turned protector, trying to untangle his legacy. Returning home one evening, lost within the maze of his thoughts, he found an old box of family photographs hidden in the attic. The dim light flickered as he sifted through the remnants of happier times, moments steeped in laughter. Each snapshot pulled at his heartstrings, reminding him that even the brightest smiles can mask unseen cracks. Just as recognition washed over him, a thud on the front porch pulled him from his reverie. A letter rested there, addressed to him in Sarah's unmistakable handwriting. With a racing heart, he picked it up, feeling the weight of what it could mean. Would it offer resolution or unravel yet more scars? As he opened it, the tension coiling inside him heightened, leaving Mike poised at the edge of an emotional revelation that might change everything. The cold paper unfolded slowly in Mike's hands as he scanned the elegantly penned lines, a stark contrast to the turmoil rippling within him. Sarah's familiar handwriting felt foreign, yet every word held the potency of a time capsule, revealing emotional echoes from a past he thought he understood. As he read, it became clear this letter was neither a farewell nor a reconciliation. Instead, it was an invitation for dialogue, a plea for honesty and vulnerability. Mike, we need to talk. There's so much left unsaid, and I hope we can navigate this difficult space together. The words were tender, yet firm, threading a line of hope that both excited and terrified him. He leaned against the porch railing, the world around him fading into a dull roar. Time seemed suspended, caught in a paradox where the weight of her words crystallized moments of his life that were both precious and painful. Could he truly confront the reality of their relationship? The essence of his being screamed for self-preservation, urging him to bury his feelings and hide behind the shield of duty. But an insistent notion pushed against his defenses, demanding introspection. Deciding to act, he took the letter inside. Sitting down at his kitchen table, he closed his eyes and let his mind gather itself. It had been a long time since he engaged in personal reflection, prioritizing himself over the responsibilities that tethered him like chains. But this moment felt significant. A fork in the road lay ahead, forcing him to step back and reconsider not just his marriage but his entire approach to life. Taking a deep breath, he grabbed a pen and notepad. He began jotting down the qualities he admired in Sarah. Moments that etched her importance into his life. The day she laughed uncontrollably at a silly joke. Their lazy Sunday mornings, and her unwavering support of his career ambitions. The more he wrote, the more clarity descended upon him. Every joy shared was marred by the neglect of underlying issues he had consistently brushed aside. He had treated her more like an extension of himself, rather than an equal partner in a shared journey. As night crept in, Mike felt determined to face reality. He ventured into the heart of Maple Grove for a late-night drive, his mind fueled by the desire for resolution. Each uneventful street echoed with memories, days he spent consumed by work, while Sarah slowly withdrew into herself. Could he diffuse his own fears and regrets through open dialogue? The thought was daunting, but now more than ever, it felt necessary. What he didn't know was that this journey would be a marathon of self-discovery, not merely a sprint towards salvaging his marriage. What if the real challenge was embracing vulnerability and uncovering truths about himself that he had long buried? In the quiet isolation of the car, an unexpected flood of ambitions surged. He could transform this turmoil into a stepping stone for growth, not just in personal relationships, but as a leader. The drive led him to the bustling heart of the town, where artificial lights painted a canvas of life in its vibrant unhappiness. The juxtaposition of despair and joy in the faces around him pushed Mike to contemplate why he had always focused externally. Now it felt essential he turn that lens inward. As he parked and considered his next steps, another wave of tension washed over him. The harmonious hum of pause surrendered to the chaotic jangle of self-doubt. What if facing Sarah wasn't about pleading for forgiveness, but letting go of the notion of control? The mere thought sparked a radical shift in perspective, igniting the yearning for courageous conversation. But within the promise of insight lurked an unsettling uncertainty. Was he prepared for the consequences that such honesty might entail? The pull between fear and desire coiled tightly within him, leaving Mike at the verge of a pivotal decision that might alter the course of his life forever. Should he reach out to Sarah immediately, or wait for the right moment? In that fleeting moment of indecision, Mike could sense the looming challenge ahead. Soon he would be called to answer questions that would carve the path of his future. The time had come to face not only his wife but the man he had become in the shadows of their relationship. What he didn't realize was that in diving into his past, he might uncover not just memories, but the very essence of who he was meant to be. The car door swung open, and Mike stepped out into the cool night air, his mind swirling with possibilities. The vibrancy of the town pulsed like a heartbeat, but he found it hard to focus on anything beyond his own internal chaos. The decision to contact Sarah gnawed at him. Was this the moment to dive headfirst into vulnerability? But with vulnerability came fear of rejection, fear of exposing his flaws, and an even greater fear of what it might all mean for himself and their future. He paced along the narrow sidewalk, illuminated by the dim glow of streetlights, grappling with the weight of his emotions. Each step felt like a rehearsal for the conversation that loomed ahead, a conversation laden with complexities he was only beginning to understand. The voices of doubt echoed in his head, questioning his intentions. Would he be reaching out for reconciliation, or was this a selfish quest to alleviate his own guilt? The realization struck him. The deeper he delved into his feelings, the clearer it became that true growth required more than just discussions about the past. It demanded honesty about current desires and future aspirations. The thought of opening that door terrified him, yet something deep within insisted it was necessary. His phone buzzed sharply in his pocket, pulling him from his reverie. The notifications filled the silence, reminding him of his responsibilities at work. But for the first time in a long while, he was less inclined to drown in those obligations. As he glanced at his screen, the image of Sarah's smiling face, captured endlessly in his memory, sparked a flicker of motivation. Why had he spent so much time entangled in work, blinding himself to the relationship that needed tending? The idea that he could reshape his narrative hit him with unexpected force, laying out a pathway where not just his marriage, but his professional life could flourish. The business deals and office politics could wait. Mastering authenticity was a priority now. He envisioned himself as a leader, not just someone who communicated orders, but a person who could inspire and engage with honesty. What if he allowed the insights gained from confronting his personal life to upgrade his professional approach? With newfound determination, he resolved to reach out to Sarah that evening. It wasn't enough to surrender to fear. He had to show her that he was ready to not just listen but to reflect, to connect in a raw and real way. The notion of re-establishing intimacy filled him with dread. But he couldn't disregard the notion that being open might empower both of them to redefine their relationship. Setting his sights on the nearby cafe, Mike realized he needed a neutral ground, a place where forgotten conversations could breathe again, unencumbered by the weight of the past. As he made his way there, doubts began to mingle with a sense of urgency. What would he say? Would his words carry the sincerity he intended? Could vulnerability heal the wounds of neglect inflicted over the years? He found a table in the corner, the aroma of roasted coffee beans filling the air. While he waited, he stared out at the street, watching people pass by, each lost in their own worlds. In that moment, he felt a strange kinship with them, a realization that everyone carries questions, fears, and desires of their own. How liberating would it be to connect with another human, to share struggles and seek understanding? His phone buzzed again, and this time his heart raced. It was a message from Sarah, her name glowing softly on the screen. Taking a deep breath, he tapped it open. "Can we talk tonight?" The words echoed like a summoning a gravitational pull toward a conversation that could change everything. He typed back, grappling with a mix of excitement and trepidation, knowing that every response could lead toward understanding, or push them further apart. "Let's meet at the cafe in 10 minutes, he replied, the message sent before he could overthink it. As he waited for her arrival, Mike felt the gravity of the moment weighing heavily on him. Would this night mark a turning point? A chance not just to revive their connection, but to rediscover himself in the process. The clock ticking toward the meeting added to the intensity. The moment of truth was approaching, and he could almost feel the heat of impending revelations. Could he navigate this maze of emotions without succumbing to the past? The door swung open, and in walked Sarah, her presence both familiar and daunting, reminding him of the unpredictable terrain ahead. Mike's heart raced as he prepared to step into the unknown. Mike's breath caught in his throat as Sarah approached, each step synchronized with the pulse of apprehension throbbing in his chest. She looked just as he remembered, her hair catching the cafe light, that familiar blend of warmth and uncertainty radiating from her. As she settled into the chair opposite him, Mike's heart raced, not merely from the sight of her but from the stakes of their impending conversation. "Hi," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper, yet laden with unspoken questions. "Hey," he replied, summoning a shaky smile that masked the turbulence surging within. They both knew the weight of the silence that enveloped them, the unresolved remnants of their past clinging to the air between them. "Thanks for meeting me," she added, her eyes searching his face for something reassurance, perhaps. Could she sense the tremors of vulnerability coursing through him? "Of course," Mike managed, forcing the words out as his mind wrestled with how to start. He could feel the urgency for honesty clash with a nagging instinct to retreat into the safety of pleasantries. But this was a moment of potential transformation, not just for their relationship but for his own understanding of himself. The barista slid a steaming cup of coffee in front of each of them, the aroma momentarily distracting from the emotional minefield ahead. Mike wrapped his hands around the warm cup, using the heat to ground himself even as the temperature of his nervousness rose. "Remember when we used to come here?" Sarah said, a wistful smile flickering on her lips. "It feels like a lifetime ago." The nostalgia washed over him, but it was intertwined with an acute realization of what had been lost in the years that followed their shared moments. Their conversations that once felt effortless, I do, Mike replied. I've been thinking a lot about those times. Me too. She paused, swallowing hard as though the next words were a boulder lodged in her throat. I miss you, us. The admission hung between them, dense with the weight of their history. Mike felt a surge of emotions, battling for dominance inside him: relief, hope, fear. I've been thinking about what happened, and I've realized how much we've both changed. But I also know we can change together. He couldn't sugarcoat it anymore. He leaned in, words tumbling out with raw honesty. This isn't just about reconnecting with you, Sarah. It's about confronting my own failures too. My work consumed me, and I lost sight of what mattered. I neglected what we were building. I need to know if there's a way back, if we can really redefine what we have. Sarah's eyes widened, a mix of shock and contemplation crossing her face. You want to rebuild? Yes, but it's not just about fixing the past. I need to understand how to be better, not just for us but for myself. I want to be a leader in my life, not just at work. I've been trapped in this cycle of fear and avoidance. As Mike spoke, he felt the shackles of doubt loosening, replaced by a burgeoning sense of clarity. Each confession was an exploration of buried thoughts he had avoided, unraveling the tightly wound expectations he had held onto for too long. I've felt lost too, Sarah admitted, her voice steadying but tinted with vulnerability. I kept waiting for you to reach out, to show you wanted to fight for us. But maybe I was too proud to admit that I needed you to be honest with me. The air shifted, a palpable sigh of mutual recognition passing between them. This wasn't merely a moment to revisit their past, but a collaborative endeavor toward growth, a chance for both of them to engage with their truths, unearthing the complexities beneath their fears. As they continued talking, the cafe faded into the background, their renewed connection pulling them deeper into the present. Each revelation felt like a stepping stone toward what could potentially become a fortified foundation for their relationship. But as the conversation unfolded, a nagging doubt crept back in. Nagging at the corners of his mind, was honesty enough to overcome the weight of their history? Could they both embrace change and emerge stronger, or would fear push them apart once again? The clock ticked away, each second a reminder that the opportunity for revival was fragile. Mike, Sarah said suddenly, her expression shifting to one of urgency. There's something I have to tell you. I didn't want to bring it up tonight, but his heart dropped as anticipation and dread collided. What could this reveal mean for everything they were beginning to rebuild? The clarity he had been cultivating now felt overshadowed by the looming specter of uncertainty. What is it? He asked, leaning closer, ready to confront whatever revelation was about to unfold. Mike's breath hitched as he awaited Sarah's response. The warmth of the cafe, infused with coffee and pastries, seemed to retreat, replaced by an icy rush of anxiety. What could possibly come next? As the silence lingered, his mind raced between possibilities. What lay behind her hesitation? The flickering candlelight between them cast shifting shadows on their faces, mirroring the uncertainty that danced in the air. I've been seeing someone, she finally confessed, her voice trembling as she navigated the difficult terrain of regret. Just for a little while. The word struck Mike with brutal force, a visceral punch that knocked the wind from his chest. The revelation was a jagged piece in the intricate puzzle of their relationship. He fought to steady himself, to deflect the sharp edges of an emerging disappointment. The visions he had crafted in his mind of rekindling an old flame were dampened, but a flicker of determination ignited within him. What does this mean for us? Mike managed to ask, his voice unexpectedly steady. The tone surprised him. He had expected heartbreak to sink into despair, paralyzing him with its weight. Instead, the question tasted sharp, suggesting that clarity and resolution might yet be possible. A shift from reactive to proactive. Sarah's gaze fell to the table, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. I didn't want it to get complicated, but I felt so lost without you. It just sort of happened. It made me realize how much I wanted you to fight for us, she confessed, a deep pain shimmering beneath her words. His heart softened, an olive branch reaching out amidst the wreckage. So this is really about what we couldn't face, he replied, wrestling with a mixture of empathy and self-preservation. Maybe we both waited too long, thinking we could keep putting things off. But I'd rather confront the truth now. The urgency of the moment propelled Mike to confront not just the complexities of their past, but the lessons he had yet to learn. Reflecting on his workaholic habits, he understood the irony. He had prided himself on leadership in his career while neglecting the most critical leadership role he could have taken in his personal life. "Sarah, I know I'm not free from blame either," he continued, confronting his own fears head-on. "I let my career overshadow what mattered. I let my ambition become an excuse to let you go. If there's even a chance for us, I need to start taking full responsibility, including this moment now." As he spoke, he felt a surge of empowerment to his body, aligning with the resolve he was fostering within. It was time to articulate not only his desires but also his actions. To not merely react to circumstances but to intentionally shape them. He needed to ask for what they both required, to bridge the gap he feared might be irreparable. "Can we agree to explore this, together? Not just with your past choices, but with everything we've been avoiding. I want to commit to understanding what went wrong, so we don't repeat history." Her eyes shimmered with the remnants of hope and anguish, combined a small flicker ignited by his determination. "I want that too," she finally replied, her voice steadier, more defiant against the backdrop of uncertainty. The tone of the conversation shifted dramatically. It was no longer just an exploration of pain but rather a fragile budding of resilience. The darkness of previous failures and miscommunication began to coalesce into something that felt fresh, charged with potential. Yet then, almost imperceptibly, doubt crept back in. Was this newfound courage truly sustainable? Did they have the strength to forge ahead, past their mistakes and missteps, or would external pressures ultimately derail their ambitions? "Mike, what if?" Sarah began hesitantly. The tremor in her voice indicated another layer to this unfolding reality. "What if he wants to take things further? I don't know how to handle this." In that vulnerable moment, everything shifted again. A question, a revelation, loomed before them, pushing Mike to realize that his next steps might define not just the outcome of this meeting, but the entirety of their relationship. "What are you willing to do to make this right?" he asked, steeling himself for whatever answer would come. The path ahead felt drastically uncertain, but for the first time, Mike sensed that navigation lay within his grasp. Whatever fate awaited could redefine both of them. Man, that realization thrilled him, even amidst the chaos. The silence hung heavy between them, a loaded pause that felt pregnant with possibility. Mike's heart raced, each beat echoing the gravity of his question. He had just taken a meaningful step into uncharted territory, a raw admission that could chart the course for both of their lives. Yet, in that tension, he felt a sudden flood of self-doubt. What if he was overstepping? "I want to believe this can work," he said, voice steady despite the storm of emotions brewing inside. "But we have to be honest both with ourselves and with each other." His words felt like a mantra, a commitment to clarity that he needed to uphold. Sarah's hesitation was palpable, her eyes darting between the flickering flame of the candle and the remnants of their shared past. "I'm terrified, Mike," she admitted, vulnerability slicing through the air like a palpable force. "What if it doesn't work? What if we destroy whatever's left?" Her words gnawed at him, provoking thoughts that shadowed their fragile moment. Failure loomed like a specter, ready to snatch away the flicker of hope ignited within him. But deep down, he recognized that these fears were as much his own as hers. "What if we never try?" he countered, mindful of the tug of ambition, battling with the soft pang of fear. "Wouldn't that leave us trapped in regret?" In that instant, he realized the key to transforming their current predicament lay not just in confrontation but in vulnerability. He needed to invite Sarah into the process, to call forth her strength as much as his own. "I'll be honest," he continued, voice lowering in urgency. "I'm tired of running scared. I spent too long burying my feelings beneath layers of work and ambition. I need this to matter, and I need you to feel the same." There was a rawness in his tone, breaking down barriers he hadn't known existed. As their eyes locked, Mike could almost see the wheels turning in Sarah's mind. "Maybe we both have to be willing to fight for this, even when it hurts," she suggested, a flicker of resolve igniting behind her eyes. "But I can't promise it will be easy. I still care about him." He absorbed this revelation, a searing truth that threatened to unravel him. "You need to figure out what it is you truly want, Mike urged, inspired to dig deeper into the complexities of her emotions. Is this other relationship something you want to explore, or is it merely a distraction from what we can build? Her brow furrowed, memory playing across her features like fleeting shadows. It's complicated. I thought finding comfort in someone else would allow me to get over us. But here I am, staring at the remnants of what we had. He remembered how they had lit up each other's lives once. Those moments of laughter, the nights spent talking until dawn. Yet, how had all that passion transformed into uncertainty? The cafe felt crowded, each table a silent witness to their unfolding drama. The scent of fresh pastries lingered, masking the bitterness that brewed within him. What do we do now? Mike pressed, determination clashing with the fear of vulnerability. In that moment, Sarah's expression shifted, as if she was tapping into a wellspring of personal resolve. I think we need a plan, not just to address the past, but to carve a new future. One where we're both completely honest about our needs and expectations. Can you commit to that? His chest tightened, the challenge forcing Mike to confront his own vulnerabilities. Creating a plan meant exposing the fractures in their relationship, and laying bare the truths that they both had deliberately avoided. I can, he replied, a newfound clarity slicing through the uncertainty. But it's going to take time, patience, and honesty. Just as a smile began to unfurl on Sarah's lips, her phone buzzed on the table, shattering the moment like glass. She glanced at it, her expression shifting to a furrowed brow. It's him, she muttered, more to herself than to him. In that instant, Mike's heart sank. Had they just found a path forward, only to be ambushed by the shadows of their past? Questions flickered through his mind uncontrollably. Could their fragile trust bend without breaking? As the tension wrapped around them like an unyielding grip, Mike realized that the very foundation of their future rested not just on their willingness to communicate, but on their ability to confront whatever awaited from that phone call. Are you ready for this? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. The weight of impending revelation loomed large. Whatever came next could either solidify their resolve, bringing them closer, or dismantling the fragile hope they had begun to build. Sarah hesitated, her eyes locked on the screen of her phone, as the chaos of emotions surged within her. The glow illuminated her features, a mask of confusion and fear. Mike watched the amalgamation of dread etch itself deeper on her face. Her hands trembled slightly, betraying much more than she seemed willing to reveal. With each beat of silence, he felt the tension morphing into something almost tangible, wrapping around him like a vice. Do you want to take it? He asked, willing to dive deeper into the uncertain waters that swirled around them. The question hung in the air, heavier than before, demanding an answer that neither of them seemed prepared to give. I should, Sarah replied, her voice shaky. Yet, despite her words, she made no move toward the phone. Mike felt a pang of urgency ripple through him. This was the moment he had wanted to confront, the moment where they could either unravel entirely or begin anew. Why don't you? He prompted, needing her to understand that window's worth. This is more than just a call. It's about defining what we really want. Taking a deep breath, she made the decision. Sarah swiped the screen, her expression flowing from fear to resolve as she read whatever awaited on the other end. A moment later, it transformed into hurt, the light in her eyes dimming. It's him, she said softly, as if the name itself felt like a weight. Mike braced himself for the news, yet curiosity gnawed at the edges of his confidence. What could he possibly do to support her through this? I'm sorry, he said, not fully understanding what she needed to hear. What did he say? It's the divorce papers. Finalized, she replied, her voice cracking. I wasn't expecting this. As she spoke, Mike's heart sank further. He had wanted clarity for them, a path forward together, but now it felt infinitely complicated. Her marriage was a shadow still haunting their burgeoning relationship, a specter looming over their breakthrough. He wrestled with a mixture of compassion and underlying frustration. If only they could lay everything bare, acknowledge every twist and turn in their lives, instead of crumbling at the weight of past decisions. Are you okay? He asked, almost instinctively aware that her answer would dictate his next move. No, Sarah responded, the truth spilling forth without hesitation. I don't know what to feel, Mike. It hurts to think that I'm losing a part of my life. but this also feels like liberation." She stared off into the distance, her thoughts churning. In that moment, Mike's heart pounded, not just with empathy, but with the realization of the duality present in her struggle. This newfound freedom appeared to ignite something within her, flicker of courage. He questioned how she could embrace the anxiety, while standing steadily on the precipice of monumental change. "Maybe this can be an opportunity," he suggested, trying to grapple with the enormity of the situation. "A chance to redefine what you want, what we want. Don't let this moment define your choices. Let it empower them." Sarah's eyes met his, uncertainty wrestling valiantly with the glimmers of hope. "You really think that? That we can build something even when my past weighs so heavily?" "Yes," he asserted, the conviction stronger than ever, even as doubts stabbed at him from below. "We're standing at a crossroads. You have the power to decide how you move forward. We both do. Let's not allow our pasts to forge our futures." His words drifted between them, a fragile bridge over the turbulent waters of emotion, swirling endlessly. For a moment Mike could see the potential for growth and the transformation that came from pain and loss. Yet, shadows of hesitation painted their landscape. He too felt the weight of what lay ahead. Was he truly ready for this journey, knowing the terrain was fraught with unknowns? Just as Sarah seemed to consider his words, he realized that she was not the only one facing a significant choice. He had to confront his own fears, rooted deep and tangled. Could he truly advocate for her freedom, while grappling with the vulnerabilities of his own heart? "Let's take this step together," he proposed. "I want to support you through this, whatever you choose. I'll be here." As he spoke, he felt the tension pull tighter, an electric charge filling the air between them. But his fear of what that choice would bring loomed just as large. Holding on to the flicker of connection they shared felt both exhilarating and terrifying. "Okay," she breathed, but uncertainties flickered in her gaze. "But what if this doesn't mean the end for us? What if it complicates things even further?" Heavy questions lingered unspoken between them, taunting at the edges of their consciousness. Just like that, Mike understood the complexity of this moment. It was a beginning and an end, an invitation and a risk, forming a crucible that would test each of them. "You know, sometimes life reshapes our realities in ways we never expect," he offered, silently vowing to dive deep into this chance, rather than retreat from unknown dangers. "All we can do now is act with honesty." And as they settled back into a cautiously comfortable silence, the weight of the past still echoing in Sarah's thoughts, a realization washed over Mike. They were headed for more revelations than he could fathom, unearthing buried emotions and confronting the ghosts of their decisions. What lay ahead would either entrench them deeper in their fragile bond, or steer them toward unexplored territories he never imagined he'd face. "I'm ready to find out what that looks like," he thought, a strange mix of trepidation and excitement welling within him. Yet, as Sarah's expression shifted, her phone buzzing again sharply shattered that moment. This time, it felt like a herald of alarm, echoing the uncertainty of the journey ahead. "Mike, another message. What if it changes everything?" The plastic chirp of Sarah's phone cut through the burgeoning tension, pulling Mike's attention sharply away from the contemplation of their unsteady future. He watched her expression morph yet again, curiosity colliding with dread. A new message had arrived, one which could just as easily illuminate the road ahead, or shatter their fragile connection altogether. She hesitated, her fingertip hovering over the screen as if repelled by an unseen force. "What if it changes everything?" she whispered, echoing his own fears. "You'll never know if you don't look," he urged, his voice steadier now. This time, he pushed past his own uncertainties, knowing that the only way forward, both for her and for them, was to confront what lay before them. With a nod, Sarah exhaled and opened the email, her brow furrowing deeper as she scrolled. Each passing moment felt like an eternity, the sound of her heart thudding loudly in the silence, almost drowning out the chaos of thoughts battling inside Mike's head. "It's from my lawyer," Sarah said, her voice low, laced with layers of disbelief and wavering composure. "He wants to discuss the property division and custody arrangements." The implications washed over Mike like a cold wave. She was not just closing one chapter. This was the start of a painful legal battle that carried weighty consequences. It wasn't just a divorce. It was a severing of lives intertwined, a messy extraction of mutual dreams and shared history. Fear threaded itself through his gut, tightening. The fragility of their connection felt even more pronounced. Every new revelation threatened to pry them apart, like a rift splitting soil and clay. Just as he had begun to see the possibility of building something meaningful with Sarah, the ground beneath them seemed determined to swallow that hope whole. "Maybe you should talk to him," she muttered, her eyes glossed over, staring at the phone rather than really seeing it. "You can go with me if you want. I'll always be there for you," he vowed, the words flying from his lips with sincerity, yet a deep knot in his stomach screamed uncertainty. "But these decisions are ultimately yours. You need to feel empowered to navigate this." Freedom, the word echoed ghost-like through the air, filled with contradictions. Liberation from a binding past, but also freedom that paved the way for daunting choices. He could sense Sarah grappling with the weight of it all, wrestling with a decision that could shape her entire future. "I don't feel strong," she admitted finally, her vulnerability laid bare in that moment. "I feel lost. Lost among the ruins of dreams, of familiarity, and what now felt like the void of possibilities." Mike respected her raw honesty. He understood that her emotional landscape demanded exploration. Yet he also wanted to ignite that flicker of courage he had seen moments ago. "Strength is often built through the rubble of our desires and disappointments," he reassured, seeking the right words to embolden her spirit. "It's not about feeling strong every step of the way. Sometimes, it's about moving forward even when the path feels uncertain." As he spoke, he felt an unexpected passion swell within. They were both standing at an intersection, a defining moment shaped not just by her newfound divorce, but by the incredible potential for growth that stretched ahead of them. He prayed she would grasp that notion before it slipped away. But the ache of her apprehension lingered in the air, a fog threatening their potential. "I've never quite dealt with anything like this before, Mike. What if I make the wrong choice?" "What does wrong even mean?" he countered, capturing her gaze with his own. "Every decision leads us to where we need to be, doesn't it? There will be consequences, yes, but running away won't help either. You owe it to yourself to face this." With the weight of his words wrapped around them, he could see moments of clarity break through Sarah's stormy eyes, like cracks of sunlight piercing through dark clouds. Yet the fear still lingered, a shadow sitting deep. "Maybe," she conceded softly, glancing down at her phone again. "But how do I know I'm ready? I don't want to hurt anyone, especially the kids. I worry about their peace." There it was, the precipice she stood upon. The balance between her emerging self and the gravitational pull of maternal duty. Mike admired that selflessness, yet he also recognized that suppressing her truth would not lead to harmony. It would only breed resentment. "Sarah, this is your moment to be honest to yourself and to them," he encouraged, resolving to support her emotional evolution, whatever direction it might take. "Trust that you can find the strength. It's a difficult path, but you will learn through it all." Then, as though the universe conspired to test her resolve, her phone vibrated again. This time, it felt like a near siren call, a reminder that the decisions laid bare before her were immediate. "Another message," she said cautiously, her defenses creeping back up. Mike could sense a turning point approaching, an opening for either collapse or renewed vigor. "Whatever it is, face it. Let's see what happens." And with that, as Sarah hesitated one final time, anticipation charged the air between them. The choice they faced now was more than personal. It held the potential to transform not just their relationship, but the very fabric of her identity. As she finally tapped the screen, Mike braced himself, acutely aware that they were hovering at the edge of revelation. Her next action could shift everything in ways neither had anticipated. What if this changes everything? Again, Mike watched as Sarah's thumb grazed the screen once more, anticipation coiling tightly in his chest. Seconds stretched thin as the silence hung heavy, a delicate tension that held the potential for renewal or rupture. "I have to read it," she breathed out, almost to herself. And then, with a determination that surprised even her, she fixed her gaze on the screen. "Okay, here goes." The email opened, revealing a straightforward request, a meeting to discuss the divorce process. A simple introduction to a much more complex future. Yet, as the words sank in, Mike sensed a shift in her demeanor. The immediate pressure of the unknown transformed into something more palpable. Diagnosis of her current reality provoking urgent questions. What does it say, Sarah? His voice broke through the thick cloak of silence, encouraging yet laced with trepidation. I think it's time to meet him, she murmured, looking up with a hesitant smile playing on her lips. I need to take control. Control. The word felt like a gateway, one that she had almost shied away from moments earlier. Mike seized this flicker of resolve, understanding its importance. This was not merely about an email. It was about her reclaiming her narrative in a life that had spiraled into disarray. That's the first brave step, he replied, sincerity catching in his throat. Do you feel different now? Maybe, she confessed, a sliver of hope breaking through her earlier distance. But I'm still scared. Fear sat like a boulder in her gut, heavy with doubts about the implications of her choice, yet linked to the conviction of her newfound agency. Mike recognized the struggle she faced, a challenge not just in the logistical decisions ahead, but a confrontation with her own identity in a world that felt fragmented. Scared is okay, he assured. But it shows you care about what's next, and about the kids. This isn't just about running away. It's about seeking what is fair and necessary for everyone. She nodded slowly, absorbing his words like a sponge. Although her lips curved into tentative optimism, Mike could see the shadows lurking behind her eyes, the fear of unarticulated consequences still gnawing at her resolve. Maybe if I start this process, they'll hate me. What if? Her voice trailed off, unmasking the insecurity of stepping into unknown territory. They won't hate you for being honest, Mike interjected quickly, his conviction bolstering. You're teaching them lessons about integrity and bravery. It's not easy, but trust that this journey will ultimately serve their growth too. In that moment, Mike understood that this was not just about Sarah's uprising against her past. It mirrored his own unresolved aspirations buried beneath layers of routine and expectations. Each decision that led her to this point also asked him to reconsider his own fears and insecurities. The path Sarah was about to forge could illuminate his own future just as much. So, what's the first action step? He asked, embodying the role of an empathetic partner in her transformation. I guess I need to schedule the meeting, she replied, a flicker of realization lighting her face a quiet acknowledgement that taking her life into her own hands meant pushing past obstacles, both internal and external. Let's do it together, he offered, pulling out his phone. They could find a way to balance the logistics with the emotional weight both of them carried. Really? Sarah shifted into a newfound enthusiasm, the tightness in her posture relaxing for the first time. Absolutely. It's a critical moment not just for you, but for us too, he stated, knowing that their shared investment in her journey could bond them beyond the current haze of uncertainty. As Sarah reached for her own phone, an unexpected rush of warmth settled in the space between them, drawing Mike closer to a burgeoning sense of purpose. Inwardly, he considered how this could be a catalyst for his own growth as well, a chance to reclaim his daring spirit buried under layers of complication. Okay, she said, her fingers gliding over the keyboard with renewed focus. I'll set it up. What followed promised to be a revelation, a charting of unfamiliar territory that neither had walked before, but it just might ignite something transformative in both their lives. Together, he murmured, proud of her resolve and eager for the path ahead. With each click of the keys, the weighty air lightened, the email sent, the future awaited them, not merely as remnants of what had been, but as individuals bravely confronting their realities. As they sat side by side, an unspoken understanding wove them closer, but just as quickly, the tension of the unknown prickled at the back of Mike's mind. What were the true ramifications of Sarah's decisions? Do you think the lawyer will be understanding of everything? She asked, concern flickering across her features as the excitement gave way to reality once more. I think we're about to find out, he replied, his anticipation measured against the burgeoning anxiety coiling in his stomach. What did they truly know about this next chapter? The next step was set, yet it loomed ahead like an unfurling storm, ready to expose the fragility of their hopes the moment they stepped into the office. Nothing felt guaranteed. Everything felt raw and uncertain. The moment of truth was creeping closer, waiting to unfold its heavy consequences. As weeks passed, Mike and Sarah navigated the aftermath of their monumental conversation. Mike had embraced the opportunity to explore who he was meant to be, a man who could lead with empathy, both at work and in his personal life, in their joint effort to support Sarah's transition through the divorce. He unearthed the level of personal strength he had never acknowledged before. Mike recentered his life around honesty and accountability. With every interaction at work, he began opening lines of communication with his team, encouraging them to voice their concerns and aspirations openly. Their collaborative spirit created a renewed sense of purpose, inspiring each member to feel vested in the mission of the Maple Grove community. With this newfound awareness, Mike felt an undeniable shift in his leadership style. He was no longer a protector dictating orders, but a mentor facilitating growth. Conversations with Sarah began shifting as well. Each meeting discussed not just the mechanics of divorce but also the foundations of a possible future together, whether as friends or partners again. Each session became a mirror reflecting the changes they both desperately needed to see within themselves. They addressed past grievances and acknowledged the pain, opening doors to honest conversations about what they envisioned moving forward. Together, we have the chance to build something anew, Mike said with conviction, one cozy evening at her kitchen table, stacking piles of paperwork for the next lawyer appointment. We need to redefine our relationship, whatever shape it takes. We owe it to ourselves. The excitement in Sarah's eyes was invigorating. You're right, she agreed, her voice steadier. I've been realizing that this isn't just about breaking down what we had. It's about reclaiming who we are, individually and together. The emotional weight that once burdened their exchanges began to lighten, each session revealing glimmers of hope, that they could foster vibrant identities unhindered by old definitions. As Sarah took control of the direction of her life, Mike found himself doing the same in his, prioritizing his personal growth, while actively participating in the new life structure he was helping foster. Today, I want to outline my plan for engaging with the community at large, Mike announced to his team one day. The atmosphere in the room was electric, dynamic, and full of shared energy as he presented ideas that encouraged active participation. Let's heighten our public safety awareness universally, but also dive deeper into individual concerns and individual solutions. Your thoughts matter. The positive feedback solidified for him that he was capable of more than just maintaining order. He was taking a stand for the community, leading with clarity and intent, and fostering a culture of support and shared aspirations. He experienced pride, something that had felt elusive for too long. His growth trajectory was culminating around values that truly mattered, rejuvenating his spirit in a way he hadn't thought possible. Mike, Sarah said one evening with a teasing lightness in her eyes, you should really consider running for mayor. The idea felt oddly liberating. The concept had never crossed his mind as a serious endeavor until that moment. He had spent years wrapped in the confines of fearful duty, to vague and focus while executing responsibilities, rather than leading with insight and ambition. Now, with renewed confidence sparked by the honesty he had cultivated through his challenges with Sarah, he could envision a future like that. Let's go to the upcoming town hall together and brainstorm some initiatives, he suggested, invigorated by her proposition. In the weeks that followed, they collaborated more closely, developing ideas for community programs that addressed unresolved issues. Simultaneously, Sarah pursued her own ambitions, courageously attending therapy appointments to establish her distinct identity outside of her past marriage. Not long after, the day of reckoning arrived for Sarah. After weeks of navigating consultations with lawyers, she faced her divorce decision head-on, entering the room with the strength of her newfound clarity. Mike was there, supporting her not just as a former partner but as an ally, holding her hand through the uncertainty. When it was finally over, she embraced Mike, a surge of mixed emotions washing over them both. Relief, fear, hope, the tapestry of their journey entwining beautifully. We can thrive out of this, can't we? Sarah asked, her voice steady, packed with anticipation which resonated deeply with Mike. Yes, he firmly replied, filled with pride for both her courage and his own involvement, as if they had both crossed an invisible finish line. Together they had transformed challenges into opportunities for growth, proving that vulnerability breeds strength. Each step forward became a testament to their resilience. As Mike ventured into the political spotlight, preparing his campaign, he felt an invigorating sense of purpose, fueled by a vision of possibility, journey primed with community spirit and shared aspirations. In that moment, they realized that true transformation had not just healed their scars. It shaped their futures into pathways brimming with potential. A shared commitment propelled them toward the horizon ahead, one that promised fulfillment and whispered the flavors of authentic living. "Let's embrace this together," Mike said as they stood on the brink of change, no matter what it takes. The resolute clarity of their decisions illuminated a brighter world ahead, unencumbered by the shadows of the past. And with that, they both took a step into the unknown, ready to lean into the future with unwavering commitment and courage. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories can understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.